Richard Rouse.
Well, people may be surprised then, having heard what you've just said about all this, that you argue in the book that the killer, Norman Bates, is probably the most sympathetic character in the film.
Well, if you look at Psycho in the way I try to sort of guide the viewer into it, the people that Marion Crane meets in her life, what we see of it, the fragments of her life, and I would include even her lover in this, they're tough, they're abrasive, they're slick, they're trying to take advantage of you, they're hostile, they're slightly aggressive. And that when Norman appears in the film, although there are interesting and important signals that Norman is not quite normal, not quite sane, Norman nonetheless is the first person she has encountered who can really talk to her about sensitive, profound things. He's the person who sort of gradually gets her to see and recognize the silly things she's done, the psycho-like things she has done, and to sort of realize that she has to repair it. She has to go back. And I think the importance of the casting of Perkins in the film, and it's valuable, I think, historically to know that he was the first person cast in the film, is that his manner as a person, as an actor, was uncommonly gentle. Now, you can say in hindsight, knowing what we know about him, well, he's effeminate. And that's interesting and valuable because he is, as a character, he is not quite all male. There is a strong female element in him. But yes, I do think that he's the most sympathetic and interesting person in the film. And I think that part of what is so dramatically brilliant and destructive in it, in taking away the Marion character, is that it comes just after she seems to have seen the light.
Well, I remember the first time I saw the film, that was the thing I thought, first of all, how can you kill a character, who we think is going to be the main character of the piece? How can you kill her 40 minutes in, and just when things probably would have turned around for her when she realized the error of her ways? Yeah,
and of course that is one of the great coups of the film, and Hitchcock was a formal innovator of a radical kind, and it's an innovation in the whole narrative arc because it leaves us stranded. So almost inevitably we begin to be on Norman's side, but there's an element of cruelty in that, but it's also, I think, a superb way of making you think afresh about the shape of the dramas in films as we receive them. Because, yes, the sort of fundamental of the information is that in the very opening of the film, we will show you the protagonist, the hero, the heroine. You'll begin to identify with them, and you will follow with them. You'll share in their quest, their ordeal, their challenge, whatever it is. And this breaks all those rules. And I think that was a breaking of rules that was extremely interesting, valuable, and creative.
Well, it also said to me that anything can happen in this movie.
Absolutely. And I think that again, is certainly something Hitchcock wanted you to feel. I think he wanted you to feel the kind of danger that I think he believed existed in the world. And yes, once a film has done that, after 40 minutes, God knows what it's going to do to us by the end, because I think automatically you pace everything in terms of what you've seen before. And if you've seen the most violent scene you had ever seen at that time, then you sort of assume that something that will top it comes along. Now, in fact, I think he was not quite able to top it, and that's a little bit of a problem in the film. But still, it makes you feel terribly exposed, terribly vulnerable. And I remember sort of holding the seat and say, "Don't do that to me again," kind of thing.
I can't take it. That's
Yeah.
Why is it now? Because I think that the film Psycho, 40 years on, 50 years on, almost
50,
years on, is as dangerous today and as enticing today as it was the day it was made. Can you sum up the general appeal of the film?
Well, I think the appeal is complicated, but I do think that one of the things Hitchcock did in this film, and you know, when you think back, it's quite a surprise to see it in this light, but he sort of introduced a disturbed character as an important character in a film. We had not had a lot of films like that. And when we had, the madness was clear and it was isolating. It meant that the person was perched up on the top of a mountain that says lunatic. But this is much more beguiling, just because, as I said, Norman is quite appealing in so many ways. So I think that there is that element to it. But also, I think that one way or another, we live in a world nowadays where we believe that the monstrous, the horrific, could get us just like that. It could jump out. I mean, part of the atmosphere of terrorism in which we now all live, whether we like it or not, is, okay, here I go, I'll get on a plane. Now, you know, traveling on a plane for many people is a little bit nervous-making anyway, but you travel on a plane and you say, well, I'm doing one of the vulnerable things, I'm doing one of the dangerous things, and who knows? Now, chances are you're going to be perfectly okay. Chances are that most of the time you're perfectly okay, and what's going to kill you is the way you're eating or the way you're living or something like that. But we are made to feel very vulnerable to a dangerous world, and Psycho is certainly about that.
Right. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And the film I was trying to describe to you earlier is called What Doesn't Kill You by Brian Goodman.
Oh, yeah.
Mark Ruffalo, Ethan Hawke.
Yes.
I don't know that it ever actually gained a release. I saw it at the festival a couple of years ago. And if you remember back, there's a scene where the Mark Ruffalo character is walking down the street and he gets shot 3 or 4 times. And it's stark and it's disturbing because it looks kind of insignificant almost. Because, as I recall, the camera is quite far back down the street, and as you see the violence happen and unfolding, it just looks kind of, it really made an impact on me, just because it was so kind of stark.
Well, I've not seen it, but I will certainly try and find it now on the strength of what you say, because that does sound very interesting.
Have a look. If you can find it, it's worth having a look at.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Nice to talk to you.
We'll speak again. Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.
Richard Krause.